The book 1984 is about the desire to control, and um, the natural instinct is to try to control your destiny, and uh, uh, the Irish are associated with famine, and um, a a forest has to have forest fires once in a while, or the forest gets unhealthy, and so what do you do? So fucking I don't know. I don't. So long. You want a lot of underbrush? What's the deal? I don't know what you want. So anyway, uh, if you can turn it over to God, what makes you think there's any better outcome? What's your goal? Are you trying to help yourself? Who are you trying to help? Like, I don't know. So like, where's my loyalty? Naturally, everyone wants self-interest, and once you realize, fundamentally, you have no clue about what you're. Well. If you find yourself helpless, what are you going to do? Anyway, so I started with effort to love God, and just intuitively, where do you start? Well, God, are you bored? So like, I sit there and I go, God, this world really sucks. I look at, so my starting point is like, man, God must be totally bored out of his fucking mind. Well, I look at this fucking world, I'm fucking going bonkers, man. What the fuck is this bullshit? I had a funny joke, right? So like, my dad he wasn't the high prestige part of the nuclear science, nuclear missile industry, but he worked on a nuclear missile, right? So, I grew up in the Cold War, right? And I'm like the Cold Warrior, I didn't really, think long about strategies for winning nuclear wars, but like, I come out of that that's my heritage, My dad worked on nuclear missiles. What do you want me to say? Well, man, it was kind of funny because like, the city I lived in for elementary school was near Hanford, Washington, and it was kind of we were proud that we made the plutonium for the Nagasaki bomb. It's kind of like the emblem for the mascot for the high school was a mushroom cloud. It was the Richland bombers. Supposedly it was like conventional bombers, but whatever. They made a mushroom cloud, and then I was down in Goodyear and stuff. And anyway, so when I what does it mean to love? I don't know. My obvious answer is I look at God and I look at this world and I think you're fucking bored. I was cracking up laughing because, like, the other day I was thinking about Normandy. And I thought I think I misheard the number, but it was something like 2,000 deaths, and I was like going, hey, you know what? That's 2,000 deaths is really not that many. Like, because I remember like I was going, there's a lot more worse battles than that. I mean, and then I started thinking, wow, that's kind of weird. It's almost like it doesn't even deserve any attention, and it does, but I mean, I'm just cracking up. So the scientists are infuriated by public ignorance, right? And you get other people that are like infuriated, and if I come out of the war industry, my dad's like let's just say I grew up and my focus was fighting nuclear war, and I remember such things as, well, okay, so I got a little I've studied history, so this is completely like off. This is not on anybody's radar as far as a significant academic field of study. You know what I'm saying? Like you just don't hear about like this. They're down. They don't, why? Hypothetically, they could teach a course on the United States' modern military and just educate people. Like, what's an F-35? What's what's the Ford class carrier? And is the Ford class carrier obsolete? Is it going to get destroyed? How come it's not just going to get hit by a missile? And like, how come a missile is not guaranteed to hit a plane? And like is dogfighting gone? And like is what's going to be artificial? I gave I finally, with the help of God, got some optimism. Seems like the fundamental conflict over the future, if we engage, is going to be heavily involve artificial intelligence. If not an actual machine intelligence, it's going to be a big contributing factor. And Gadwa used to say, he said, when it comes to robots, humans are cheaper to reproduce. And I happened to get some optimism recently, so I started to think about what Gadwa said. And as I was loving God, I was like, hey, you know what? Let's just say we're fighting, the world's all global right now, but like, if it ever did actually come to war, the country would have to build their robots, right? Maybe they start with all of them that they need, but anyway, like in World War II, I decided the fundamental question you have to answer is time for you or against you? Because Germany, I played enough war games that basically Germany wins if they rush as fast as possible. If they're slow, then the Allies have greater production and they win in the end. But anyway, so like I was just saying, the first rule of war is never fight the last war. And I could go on and on and on. But anyway, so like, so I was cracking up because like the scientists get infuriated at public ignorance, and here I'm sitting at it's in Normandy, and it's like 2,000 deaths, and I was just kind of a little bit annoyed. The public in general just like often fails on like the concept of a decimal place. You know what I'm saying? Like the classic is a nigger suing for $1 trillion, and like as an engineer, day in and day out, I worked with pico, nano, micro, milli, kilo, mega, right? So if you've actually done some extensive exercises, these are familiar, and you actually have a concept, right? And it's kind of my most hilarious joke is a nigger suing for $1 trillion. So like, anyway, God said war is necessary to because the gene pool gets resource pigs, and anyway, so like I could go on back and restate all kinds of stuff, but I was going to talk about war. So the scientists are infuriated by public ignorance on science, and I was going, hey, I'm going, what the fuck is like this 9/11? Okay, so like just to put death in perspective, the Chinese were just for some reason wanted to kill all the sparrows because they were pissed off at them, right? So they did a public campaign to kill sparrows. And then, holy fuck, they got like these massive grasshoppers, and 20 million people died. That's like karma, okay? That's like, there is perfect justice, and it's kind of a bad idea to set about to extinct something. That's like, the Japanese have the concept of Godzilla, which is kind of like, a monster is gonna. We're gonna get punished by a monster or something. Actually, Godzilla's actually a hero. That's kind of funny. That's kind of cool. I like them. Japan didn't do a lot of cultural export. I like Godzilla. I remember as a kid, man, I was fucking horrified by this crazy ass camera shit with like that. I was like, I don't know what I was like. I don't see if I don't know, 5 years old, 6 years old. Those monster movies, crazy ass. Anyway, so I was laughing at. I'm getting kind of generally I was like pissed off about like 9/11. What pissed me off is like, to me, 9/11 might as well have been like saying there were 10 alcohol deaths in Chicago. It's like, what the fuck does the country care? It's nothing. To me, I'm looking at this 9/11. I was coming from like the nuclear war analysis. I'm going, why does the country care about fucking 10 alcohol deaths in Chicago on Labor Day weekend? I'm going, what's this insanity? I'm just going berserk, going, what the fuck is going on? And then there's this heavy police clampdown. I'm going, what the fuck just happened? What is this fucking insanity? I mean, it would be like a scientist getting completely ballistically enraged about like ignorance. You know what I'm saying? As a military person, I'm going berserk. What the fuck is this shit, man? We're worried about fucking. Now you can. Now we got okay. So guess what? So my dad worked on the Titan missile, and it was kind of weird. I went out to the Godfathers are. Operating on a, kind of a, okay, have you ever seen Godfather movies? I didn't really see. I just watched something about Cuba, and it depicted what was going on in Cuba, and I wasn't really aware of that, and so my dad, let's just say, made the Titan missile. So I was out there at Estrella Park. Goodyear used to be, Goodyear Aerospace is it's kind of like a ghost town, right? Like basically, there's not, it's amazingly empty. I love it, man. The whole Estrella Park is like empty. I was kind of surprised about half the parking lot of Goodyear Aerospace, or it's called Lockheed now, is occupied. I don't know what they're working on. Like I joked with Diana, hey, let's go sneak in there and steal Firefox. Anyway, so Diana basically revealed to me what's going on. I was like dick-sized blind. You know how some people are like color-sized blind? I was dick-sized blind. I lived my whole life. I wasn't even aware this was a concept. And what happened is we got nuked. Basically, the United States got nuked. Here's what happened. Nuke, and talk about a nuclear family. That's kind of a weird concept. What if you broke down the family? Or did you just nuke the country? That's a concept. So, because the wars are fought over centuries and epic struggles and shit. And I was talking about fighting against someone making robots. Robots take a lot of parts, and if you can cut the supply chain to one critical part, they can't make the robots. So that wasn't all that. When I realized what it would be like to fight another country that was making robots, well, both sides would be chopping the supply chain, and pretty soon you're back to cheap humans. I don't know, maybe. So I was all of a sudden, I had been really pessimistic, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey, you know what? Now we can do this, And I also talked about, God, the Battle of New Orleans, right? Anyway, as a species, we have the ability to teach each other a culture, but we also, each of us, have a diversity. And basically, when you teach the soldier next to you, well, generally it improves the army. But what if you're fighting artificial intelligence? Now the artificial intelligence is faced with a complex foe that is untrained, and each one of them is different. Now this is a different strategy, and it's beautiful because it like praises God, and there's the classic joke, the only one that can beat a black belt at karate is like an amateur because he just comes out of nowhere, bam. Here's another kind of interesting observation. I was training to be I rediscovered how to be a Templar, and in the process of my training, broke my collarbone, and then I was making a long story short, I'm letting it heal, and God said it made me ambidextrous, but I'm discovering how to that I have self-healing, at least for some injuries. Anyway, here's the thing. It changes your battlefield instincts, and so you might catch someone off guard if you've healed from an injury, and that's a beautiful thing, and because you can have an expert on human instincts, and if he encounters someone who's wounded, they're different, and suddenly he might get killed. So that's beautiful, isn't that beautiful? But I have a definition of beautiful and ugly, and discovering this through the will of God is beautiful. If you take this and then apply everyone like a German, take all your soldiers, break their collarbones, that's my definition of ugly. And I'm not the boss, but I'm just saying that's ugly. And what are we talking about? What is it? Yeah, it's kind of funny. As king, Catholic Church loved God by embracing natural birth, but it shouldn't take you too long to realize that you need to embrace natural death, because it's pretty obviously messed up if you don't embrace natural death. It's a classic is child mortality. My little brother was born premature, and I can kind of tell. So basically if you have a king, he pretty much has an obligation to balance the books, and ideally you do it through means that are not ugly and that where you give him a fair shot. There's the Irish Brigade in the Civil War. Basically took them right off the boats, shoved them into the Civil War, into the meat grinder, and at least they had a shot of surviving. And the Nazis just said they got a human, bang, 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 because each of us needs the death to evolve our tribe, and it's actually a blessing to have a good chisel. Yeah, the Bible talks about the Jews are the chosen people, and they're lucky us, and one of the ones I like is they said, okay, now you encounter the Medes who have no value of gold and silver. Oh, now how about that? So each of these encounters is a chisel that's I'm focused on God and loving God. Yeah, the starting point is, what's the most natural thing? I was the first thing I think of when I look at God and what does he think of the world is, God, I'm bored. It's just honest, how can you love if you if you don't have a starting point of honesty? You know what I'm saying? That should be your starting point. Then the Catholics teach you're supposed to know God, love God, and obey God, or something like that. But it's kind of interesting to say the first one is to know God, and basically. One of the things is, I think the critical thing is, I think it's by the Byrds. It says "Turn, turn, turn." It's a song it's a rock song, and basically it says the world goes through ages. Age of love, an age of hate, an age of reason, an age of faith, an age of science, an age of religion, an age of each of these ages, right? And so sometimes. Sometimes you want to drive the population big, But what can you think of any reason you might want to drive it small? Well, what about calories? It's like, hey, dude, what are you so big for? You're a waste of calories. Get the fuck out, man. Bang, or whatever. When I look at you, my brother Kevin said he saw niggers as obsolete farm equipment. I can say the same thing of like the gorillas, the Neanderthal fucks. Oh, I'm not real big, but so I can take a look at some Neanderthals and say, hey, dude, what's the waste of calories? All you're doing is like attracting women with your big dick. But like in a battle, I can kill you. There's like Audrey Murphy's the most celebrated war hero of World War II. You kind of get a luck bonus if you got screwed. And he's like a little tiny guy, like 5'5" and 112 pounds. So literally the most decorated war hero. Well, of course they do these things with propaganda, but anyway, it's hard to. Okay, whatever. Just leave it at that. So that fucking enrages me, the public ignorance of military. Period.